Hey, it's Frank. Um, so this will be my first video. Um, I'm gonna try to split it up by topic, but I might go off on tangents. Just a warning. I do that quite a lot. Um, I'm probably gonna start these videos with more recent stuff that's currently troubling me, or stuff like that, and then I'll work my way backwards. And since I already made videos about um, my breakup on the other channel, I'll probably just get to them in a couple videos. Um, and so I guess in this video, um, so last month my son died, and he was 10 months old. He had a rare condition called CCHS, which is central congenital hypoventilation syndrome, and it required him to be hooked up to a breathing machine. But it was basically extreme sleep apnea. There was his FOX2B gene was abnormal because myself and my ex both had the recessive genes, I suppose, or both of our genes were abnormal enough that it created his abnormality. And he didn't have any physical abnormalities at all. So they didn't catch it until um, like 10 minutes after he was born, when he was just turning pink and he wasn't breathing very much. It was very shallow. And they had to send him to another hospital that was an hour and a half away from us, from where we lived. And we went there like every day, as much as we could, because obviously he's our baby, and he was our baby. And they taught us how to take care of him, how to take care of his trach, because I had to give him a tracheostomy for his breathing tube to hook up to the machine. And we learned all the ins and outs of that, and I could probably still do all that now, even though it's been a month. Um, they don't have an official report on how he died. They they think, according to cultures, that it was probably an infection, um, some sort of cold or flu or both, that he just didn't show any signs of. We had taken him to the doctor a couple days before for something unrelated, and he said that everything had checked out, because the time before that, um, he had a cold, and they gave us something to give him that cleared it up, and it gave him um, uh, we thought it was a diaper rash, but at the time, me and my ex were already into different homes, and so I never really got the full story. But apparently, it was a fungal infection, probably from his nurse or my ex not changing his diaper enough. And but anyway, that was a non issue. We went, they gave us the cream, it started to go away, and they didn't see anything. And then I went to see him one night, and I was able to get a video of him being happy, and the first time that I had ever seen him pull himself up on the rail in his crib. And I think it was the first time he'd done that, but someone else claims that he did it before. But it was special to me, and I'm glad that I went over that night, because the next day my ex tried to call me, and I figured she was just wanting me to watch her other two kids so she could go to work early, because she was manipulative like that. And I wasn't going to answer the phone per someone else's advice, but I I did anyway because it could have been anything about my son. His name was Logan, and it was. My ex called me to tell me that he had died, and um, I drove over as fast as I could. They tried to give him CPR until the ambulance had gotten there, but he had already passed away. When she called me, she was gonna wake him up from his nap to feed him, and he was already cold. And I don't know. The funeral was 2 weeks after, and um, life was pretty hectic because my ex had only moved out of our house a week or two before my son passed, and we were still going through a bunch of stuff with that, and we still were even after the funeral. I I just miss him a lot, and I may not show a lot of my feelings on here, but I will try to express them for my own growth and review in the future. But I have cried pretty much every night for him, and I have nightmares of him sometimes. The most recent one that I can remember is that um, my ex handed him off to me one day, and everything was fine. And everywhere he went, he had to be hooked up to a breathing vent, which was, I mean, it was like a really thick tablet, like 8 by 8, and his cords hooked up to that and to him. And she handed everything off to me, and I was at a mall, and I was paying for something, and I looked at him, and his cords were gone. He didn't have anything on his neck, and I didn't think anything of it. And I went somewhere else, and I think I was gambling. I was buying lottery tickets or something, and I looked at him again, and he was blue, and he was cold, and I I was thinking, okay, I have to scratch these tickets. I have to put these in my pocket or something like that. I can't remember. And I looked at him again, and he was just a doll. And I looked at him again, and he was just his machine. And I ran out of whatever place I was in, and I was running and crying and screaming that he was gone, and it was my fault. And I'll never know if it was my fault because it could have been any number of things. And we had to perform um, suctioning on his throat, which is we get um, a little saline. Um, I don't even remember what to call it. A little saline plastic pod thing, and you squeeze it, and then you suction out anything in there. It's like mucus, like when you have a cold, but he was prone to it building up a lot more because of his condition. And I mean, one of us could have put too much in, or the nurse, because he also had a nurse, or there's a balloon that's supposed to inflate when he's eating that we have to manually inflate so that nothing goes down his lungs, and that could not, maybe that wasn't inflated enough. And I know that the nurse often well, we had multiple nurses, but the newest one, because my ex had moved out of our house, she wasn't very um, uh, she didn't she probably didn't take care of him as well as we would have, and I'm pretty sure she often laid him down while he was drinking his formula instead of holding him more upright, and that could have caused something, but we'll never know. Um, and it's been hard to move on from that, but I thankfully have um, some friends that I didn't know could be as close to friends as they are. I never really had any childhood friends or close friends because I moved a lot when I was growing up, and I was more of an introverted person, and I was kind of weird. Um, kind of extroverted intuition, and a little hyper, and I probably pushed people away a little bit, but um, I found out what a real friend is there for, that they'll actually listen to you, which blew my mind because no one has ever even offered to just listen to me talk about my feelings. I grew up in a home where I had to turn my feelings off so I could learn to do things, um, so I could be a man, or I mean, I was just really emotional growing up, and that has kind of affected my ability to type myself, because I don't know if I am emotional and I'm hiding it, um, just because that's how I was brought up, or I don't know if I'm really not that emotional, and except in private and on here. But I have accepted that I do actually have a lot of emotions, and I can't keep them all bottled up, and that's why I'm making these videos. Um, so I'm glad to have those friends, and as close as family can be, they don't always know what to say, and they can't always be there for you like you want them to. So that's that part of the story. All the details, I guess, introverted sensing, maybe. Um, just know, for anyone that's going through something like this, loss of a loved one, there are people out there that you may only know a little bit that will help you. And if you need to talk, I'm not the best at giving advice, but I will certainly listen, and I will be here for anyone that needs to talk, because I would want someone to be there for me. Um, so I'll see you guys in the next video.